am very pleased to say, after much technical meanderings and shenanigans, that I have with me today Hamish McLay of Search and Convey. Yes, I realise that rhymes, but Hamish is a past master at shortening the time it takes for property searches to take place on commercial or residential properties, and apparently, according to him, there's been some stuff happening behind the scenes that he's going to report on. So this is really some updates on what's changed in the property scene. Hamish, tell me everything.
Well, it's quite interesting. There always seems to be something happening, which in the years that we've actually been working, it comes as sort of no surprise. The property industry tends to be a reflection of how effectively the economy of the country is running.
Yes.
If something goes wrong with the property industry, it can imply that there's a direct error sort of somewhere or other within the system.
Right.
And what we could obviously sort of do from time to time is suggest that perhaps it was a new government that came in, a change of policy so different things happened, and or they decided they would banish home information packs overnight instead of having a 100-day consultation. All sorts of things like this sort of have great sort of impacts. However, we've had the same government. Well, it's not exactly the same government, but it is the same party within government for a number of years now. And what they've done is just juggle around with the parties. And I dread to think we're well over 10 people having been responsible for the housing market within all of that time frame. And I'm not so sure that any of them particularly know what they're doing.
Well, I think the rest of the country says amen to that. But what I was going to ask you has the direction of travel been the same all the way along?
Yeah, downhill, I think. Downhill.
I shouldn't laugh, but it is kind of.
Looking at the overall picture, we have a very, very sad situation. And of course, what's happening, and this really wasn't meant to be a political argument, or political discussion even. However, I think it's important that we actually bring this subject up, because it is in fact affecting far too many people within the sort of population because of what has actually occurred. I was very fortunate. I attended a meeting late last week at a law firm who were housing. In fact, they were housing gathering from the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce, and it was a property update. And some of the items that came up there, I'd been aware of vaguely in the background, but I didn't realise the total impact that they were really sort of causing. So we had property developers, we had landlords, we had obviously the legal sort of property people explaining about it. And unfortunately, what has happened, there have been a significant number of laws brought in and changed by the Conservative government over a time frame, which is having a serious impact on landlords and investors, because with pushing up interest rates, reducing tax allowances, and various other items which have been happening within the sector, there are a number of landlords now who sort of feel, well, there really isn't any margin in this, because if we sort something out and we were expecting a return, once those interest rates go up and we are paying more for it, and then the government decide, oh, well, we're going to change the rules and the regulations, and they have to actually sort of start investing, but the money they're investing now, they can't gain the same tax relief on it. Everything is actually sort of creating a situation, particularly for the smaller landlords. Those who've got hundreds of properties, no big deal. But we know it's the sort of the sector that are perfectly well okay. But what's happening because of this, there are people pulling out of the market, and the number of properties available for people to rent is diminishing.
I read that it was diminishing rapidly. I mean, it's not a reduction of 1-2%. We're talking a reduction of 10, 15, 20%. And on top of that, I mean, a friend of mine who owns, I think, 4 properties, she now the interest rates have come. It's now uneconomic. She can't get because the difficulty and of being able to get tenants out. She can't, and it's hard for her to raise the rent because she knows they can't pay it, and yet she's now at the point where she's pretty much at break even. She's not making any money from her 3 properties.
Well, the sad news is what that brings about, and we can actually sort of see once the whole of that rolls out through a number of different sort of areas of the countryside, the properties that are available are restricted. We are not building enough properties. The government isn't, encouraging the build. Why? Well, people don't want to invest. They don't want to develop properties if they're not going to be maximising their profit.
Right.
So there's a number of things. And of course, realistically, when you actually look at what sort of happened, the Bank of England keep on pushing up that interest rate.
Right.
We've got all of these things cramming in. So rents are going up at an alarming rate. And of course, who rents property? Those who in the past haven't been able to get a mortgage. Can they afford these new prices? Well,
it's become as onerous. It's become as onerous to rent as it's become to own a property. It's pretty much as hard to do one as the other.
Absolutely. I mean, it really is. It's reached critical proportions, and the government, of course, they're levelling up now.
I'd love to know if somebody could explain to me what the hell that means.
I think I figured out part of what it means. They're actually getting around to things that were screwed up in the first place, but only in part, and ignoring all else. But if they call it a minister of levelling up or whatever they want to call them, it sounds as though they're achieving something. The reality is they're not really going forward. So we've got that particular side which is sort of going on, which is not helping the rental sort of property market. There it would appear to be a steady flow of people buying and selling certain properties. But of course, if landlords are selling it off, they're not selling it off to be relet. So they're taking that out of the market. And of course, yes, the process has started, but we know how long. We know how long it's taking to get conveyancing completed. So really, there's no short-term fix at the moment that anybody can actually sort of do anything about unless the government decide to step in. So we can wait and sort of see what's happening there.
But then the government have just said only yesterday, I think it was Rishi Sunak announced that there will be no support for commercial or domestic properties with regards to mortgages.
Well, I think we have the inference there that the government isn't willing to actually sort of help a situation that it has actually created a situation, as happens in many instances. The situation is created by the government sort of in power. There's no wonder or other. I'm not exactly sort of Tory bashing, really, am I?
Slightly. But no, it's not Tory bashing. It's just we are presented with the scenario in your sector, which was, if I could, there's no other way of putting it, was created by the Tories. Dare I say, a certain gruesome twosome sent the whole property market into freefall, if you recall, and with her Trussonomics, and has never properly recovered since that point.
That's very, very true. Now, of course, on the other side of things, what we do have, and there's growing apprehension is a topic that we did speak about previously.
Right.
Was really what was going on with sort of land registry. We're beginning to find more and more errors in terms of what is actually sort of going on. And land registry, having invested, it's difficult to actually sort of say, but put it this way, there's several hundreds of millions of pounds they've already invested in this particular scenario. only to sort of find that, to be perfectly honest, people aren't actually taking up and purchasing information from land registry, so they're not getting any payback from this aspect. So they're not getting paid anything like the money they were expecting to get paid. Furthermore, the errors are increasing.
Now that's the thing that worried me the most. You told me that on a previous broadcast. That
So now
the errors are quite comical.
there is some sort of talk is, should we actually continue down this particular route with the number of errors, bearing in mind 75% of councils still have not been included and still haven't been added in, and they're meant to turn up, or they're all meant to turn up by the end of next year.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Is it decision time to sort of say, is this the way forward?
Well, yeah, but my worry is, it's not. Is it mandatory that they turn up at the end of next year, or is it just a suggested target?
Well, they were revised. They were revised by independent bodies, particularly sort of the independent body which I'm sort of part of. That it wasn't an exercise that should be actually, when they first muted the subject in something like 2014. Bearing in mind they didn't start till 2018. And they've only carried 25. So in 5 years, they've carried out 25%. In 18 months, they've now got to put, with the number of errors they've had so far, what's going to happen?
It's nonsensical. If it took 5 years to get a quarter of it done, let's say somebody lit a fire under their I still can't see them moving at light speed, which is what is suggested has to happen now.
Apparently, this gets interesting. They're having to employ more people in order to actually embrace the situation and onboard everybody in the time frame. Now, of course, these will be less experienced than the ones already that have managed to create mistakes. And the interesting comment is, coming back from land registry, well, we can only take what information we're given. If it's wrong, this is the biggest struggle of the lot. If it's wrong, we cannot make them change it.
But that's nuts. That's nuts. That's opening the door to all sorts of ridiculousness.
Well, it's not just, yes, it has opened the door.
Sorry, it has opened. It's already happened. Sorry, I forgot that.
So we've got sort of two sides of the equation. Now, apart from that, the councils amalgamating, which in itself has sort of caused errors. I mean, I think it was quite interesting. We were trying to get some information out of one of the councils, and they had amalgamated 18 months ago.
Right.
Up 18 months ago. I said, "Oh, we haven't quite got round to putting the information together yet. That's going to take another 6 months." Now, land registry are also speaking about managing to handle other things. Now, bearing in mind, it can take up to 2 years to get the title of your property changed over. And that's all conveyancing is about.
Right.
Changing the name on the title deeds. And so with them trying to project one thing in one direction, not being able to do the right thing in another direction, I think we have a lovely little mix match here. Our property industry is a bit of a tight squeeze, I'd say.
It's a bit of a pickle. The problem that worries me is it's not getting faster, is it? Because more and more of these councils are amalgamating, which means that the quality of the data at the centre of it all is becoming more and more diffuse. Let's use pleasant words. Rather than the complete and utter cods, whatever, it's not as clear as it might be. And combine that with the fact that it takes anything up to how long does it take to get a property title changed?
Well, it can vary, but they're ridiculous. If everything runs smoothly, it's not so bad. But unfortunately, they cannot handle queries. However, in between, they need to go on strike. That's important, isn't it? That they go on strike to sort of complain about they're not. they're not getting sort of paid, which I'm sure doesn't exactly sort of help the speed and the pace of things.
No, it's going to do the exact opposite. Is there a light at the end of this tunnel, Hamish? You've been a right doom and gloom merchant today.
Well, I didn't want to be a doom and gloom merchant, but it was just some of these things that came up, and I was really stunned. It was by the, if you like, the struggle now facing sort of landlords.
Right.
And landlords are essential for people who sort of get homes in this country, and it really isn't helping. And like you just sort of said earlier, Gareth, from that conversation by our Prime Minister yesterday, that no assistance is going to be given. It doesn't exactly look positive at the moment. The great thing is that the property professionals are very, very robust people.
Right.
And they will find a way around it. We've got some incredible property sort of legal folk who will find ways of rejuggling some of these idiotic sort of laws that are being sort of presented to them by, obviously, people who are pushing bills of parliament through without the necessary sort of expertise to understand fully the implications of what they're doing. And this is the struggle. So they're not actually consulting the right people before they put their information through either. So,
all right. Well, look, I want to leave this live stream. First of all, I want to just say one thing, acknowledge one thing. Hamish now has a machine that means we can do these live streams regularly. So look forward to one more next week. Second of all, and I'm very pleased to say, Hamish, your computer is working like a treat. It's steady and easy and good resolution. Secondly, I've recently upgraded the resolution, so we're now at pin sharp high definition resolution, guys. Hooray. And thirdly, hopefully between us we'll have more positive related news to report next week.
Much more positive next week.
Of course, much more. So until then, Hamish, thank you for taking the time out today. Remember, Hamish McLay from Search and Convey Solutions. If you are a solicitor or conveyancer and you are pulling what's left of your hair out over the time it takes to get your conveyancing completed, it may be down to the search. Speak to Hamish. He's a past master at shortening those times. But anyway, until next week, Hamish, many thanks.
Thanks indeed, and goodbye all.